All right, we are ready to kick this off. Welcome to this webinar training. And right off the bat, I'm just going to say it because there's really no other way to say it. You've been lied to. I'm sorry that I'm the bearer of bad news, but you've been lied to your whole life about what it really takes to be successful. Um, in fact, you've probably been told that to achieve more, you need to do more, hustle harder, take on more responsibilities, sleep less, work more, sacrifice more weekends, and commit to your business, or in other words, as they say, basically become a slave to your business. Give me a quick one in the chat if any of this sounds familiar to you. If you're actually living this right now, I don't know about you, like I've actually lived this experience where I've only been asked to do more, give more, hustle more, sacrifice more, etc. Because that's what I've been told. That's how it works. I don't know if anyone here ever seen these Eric Thomas videos where he's like, sleep, forget about sleep. Beyonce didn't sleep for 3 days, and it's like it shames you into sleeping. What? that's that's how I kind of got into the business, and that's the message I've been getting. So I see Rocky says that it resonates, and Kathy and Donna and Mark. Cool. So yeah, that's the message, but it's a lie. It's actually not true. Most people believe that success is linear. More effort, more results. More time invested, more results. More actions, more rewards. But the reality is actually, I don't know. I'm not buying that, because if this was true, if this were true, why aren't you happy, wealthy, and wise? Right? If this were true, uh, why aren't you already living your dream life and your dream business? Aren't you working hard enough? Aren't you waking up early and going to bed late? Aren't you sacrificing weekends to work on your business? Aren't you doing everything that is asked of you? And aren't you a good person? Aren't you decent at least? If so, where is your big breakthrough? Right? Where is it? And why isn't it here? Well, I'm here to prove to you that success and making more money and having a life and being present at the dinner table is not about working harder. Getting more is not about doing more. It's about doing less, and I will prove it to you. Okay? Because once upon a time, I was just like you. I was stuck in this hamster wheel grinding 12 hours a day to grow my business. And after years of grueling hard work, I finally crossed the six-figure mark. And for a while, I thought of myself of being successful and that I've reached a good life. And at the time, I also started a family. I had a newborn baby, and I had a ton of commitments to juggle, and I didn't have an office, but I couldn't also work at home. So I would develop what I later called the Musa routine, or the Musa protocol. And basically it worked like this. I couldn't focus at home. So I would get in my car and I would drive to this bar slash diner that we had in our town called Musa. It was famous for having a Belgian beer, great burgers, and soccer memorabilia all over the ceiling and walls. Now they opened at 8 a.m., which meant at 7:59 a.m. I was at the door. Okay, I would go in, order my coffee, and start working on the most urgent things in my to-do list. Around 10 a.m., I would have breakfast, and they actually had an Igor breakfast on the menu. It wasn't like unofficial menu, right? They just knew that I liked my omelet, 3 eggs with this really tasty, like salty cheese on top, and tuna. It's a habit from the Air Force. So they had the Igor breakfast on the menu, and then I would have my breakfast, and then I would work until lunch break around 3 p.m. Then I would have my lunch, and then after 3 p.m. I would continue working until about 8 p.m. But then the place was so crowded because it was also a bar, so a lot of people would come in the evening, that I would actually go ahead and drive home. And when I'm home, at home, I would continue working for a couple of more hours because I was doing everything. It was a one-man show. So late nights, I would literally fall asleep with the darn laptop on my lap. Eventually, my wife started calling my laptop my second family, lovingly, jokingly, but as they say in every joke, there's some truth, right? So yeah, and I can see some of you can really resonate with that. Rocky says, "Oh my God, that's me." That's like what I'm living right now. And so the result of this routine was $130,000 a year. Now, I'm not complaining because $130,000 a year is great money. No matter where you live, even in today's money, it's still great money. You can have a pretty comfortable lifestyle. You can have a family. You can travel several times a year. You can drive a Tesla. You can have nice things. But I could only survive this for so long, as well as my marriage. I won't go into detail, but there were times when it got really difficult. Now, my life today couldn't be more different. Usually, I'm up by 9 a.m. and having my espresso with a glass of ice cold water. Around that time, that's my like getting things started routine, at least until my health deteriorates later on in life, and I won't be able to have my morning espresso. I really love my espresso, so I have it with ice cold water. Again, it's a habit from the Air Force, and the first thing I do is I check how much money came in while I was sleeping. I find that it's a nice way to create positive, feelings in the morning. Usually, I'm not that cheerful in the morning. Now, sometimes it's hundreds of dollars, sometimes it's thousands of dollars, but there's some dollars in the bank. So that's nice. Then I have my breakfast. It's always the same breakfast. It's salmon and avocado tartare with MCT oil and sesame seeds. Then I work on one thing that day. I always got one important thing that I'm supposed to work on that day. Just one, not three, not seven, not 15 things like most people, just one. And this one thing is very specific kind of thing, which I'll tell you more about in a moment. Now, once I'm done, around 1 p.m., I always have lunch with my wife. In fact, the last 7 or 8 years, I've always had lunch with my wife, nearly every day of the week. And then I take a nap. Even though I'm in my late 30s, yeah, I do take a nap like an old man in the middle of the day because I got this energy slump, which I don't know, still don't know why it happens. And then the rest of the day is for walking, family, thinking, reading, hobbies, playing soccer. I actually too play soccer with my son and with other adults who are also slow and fat like me. And then the result of all this, okay, is $4.3 million a year. Now, to prove this, I know that talk is cheap. So to prove this, this is a notarized statement by an actual notary that verifies that I've made 5,010,782 Canadian dollars, which basically is roughly 4.3 million real dollars. Not the fake Canadian, the real dollars. So about 4.3 million. Now, if you think about it, it's not the money that's impressive. What's impressive is that I went from making 130K a year, working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, to 4.3 million a year, working 4 hours a day, maybe 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's a substantial increase in income. In fact, it's a 3,307% increase in revenue and an 85% reduction in working hours. My hourly wage went from $29.68 an hour on average, which is the wage of a construction worker or an office manager, to on average 4,143, 1,000. Damn it, I get mixed up with the numbers. To $4,134.62 per hour, which is a 13,828% increase. Basically, forget about all these numbers. I started making a lot more money per hour on average, okay? In other words, work the same hours, make more money. Now, if you really want to put a picture in your mind, and I would love for you to put a picture in your mind, my ROI, okay, the actual net ROI on my working hours has increased so much that I now have more impact with just 1 hour of work than I used to have with 3.5 weeks of effort. So 1 hour versus 1 hour now gets me as much ROI as 140 working hours, or in other words, 1 hour versus 3.5 weeks of effort. Now, how do I do that? Is there some magic trick? Well, I wouldn't call it magic. It's actually understanding the laws of the universe. And at the basis of this all lies a mathematical pattern discovered by an Italian gardener. His name was Wilfred Pareto, and he noticed back in the 19th century that 20% of the pea pods in his garden produced 80% of the peas. Now, on one hand, that's like, okay, why is this impressive? On the surface, not really incredible. However, he asked a really important question, and that is, can this weird mathematical pattern emerge in other areas of life in the economy? And turns out he was right, and it did. In fact, he looked into the wealth distribution and found out that 20% of the families in Italy held 80% of the country's wealth and land. And the pattern was also true for other Western European countries. Sometime later, a management consultant named Joseph Duran applied this theory to business and quality control, noting that 20% of the product defects were causing 80% of product failures. From there, the 80-20 rule, as we now know it, was widely adopted across dozens of industries to help identify and prioritize most impactful efforts. Now, of course, this is nothing new. Show of hands, give me 7 in the chat if you have heard of the 80-20 principle, aka the Pareto principle, before. I'm just curious, how many people here have heard about this? Don't be shy. I don't bite. Okay, so at least a couple of people heard about it. I'm pretty sure there's more. It's a pretty popular. I mean, it was popularized by pretty much every author out there. Every business educator talks about this. I mean, it's out there. There's impossible for you to miss it. Now, with this, okay, now I'm seeing a bunch of yeses coming in. All right, cool. It's just, I guess the webinar software is a little bit delayed. So if this is true, how come isn't everyone happy, wealthy, and wise? How come isn't everyone applying the 80-20 principle to their life and business? Well, the actual answer is that most people just don't know. Most people simply don't know how to apply the 80-20 principle to their work, to their life, to work less, earn more, spend more time with family, and have time left over to do hobbies, creative pursuits, or to just lay on your couch and watch Netflix. I don't know. Nothing wrong with that. I honestly don't judge because I watch every new show that's out there. So no judgment from me, big movie buff. Okay. So this is exactly what I'm going to show you today. Okay. And those of you who like what you learned today, I will also present you with an opportunity to get my complete 80-20 productivity system at a discount. Is that a deal? Give me a 5 in the chat. If I have your permission to, after I teach you some of my secrets, to then give you the full system at a discount. All right. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it very much. So if the 80-20 principle is universal and virtually everyone is familiar with it, how come more people aren't successfully applying it to their businesses to generate more money while working less? Well, that's because the 80-20 principle is easy to understand, but can be challenging to apply in the real world. Our lives and businesses are messy and chaotic, and it's not obvious where and how the 80-20 principle can be applied to streamline, simplify, and multiply. So to do that, we're going to ask 3 specific questions. The first question is, what is the trivial 80% and what is the vital 20% in your business? That's the first question we need to answer. The second question is, once you identify the vital 20%, how do you get rid of the trivial 80% so you have more time for the vital 20? And the third question we will ask and answer is how to avoid being sucked back into the daily madness we call our lives. Okay, so today we're going to look into these 3 questions and give you a clear idea of what you need to do will basically eliminate the mental fog around the application of the 80-20 in your business, in life, so you can earn more while working less. Let's start by discussing what the 80-20 principle is not. 80-20 principle is not doing more or pushing harder or working longer hours. This is contradicting the whole 80-20 principle philosophy as a whole. The 80-20 is all about doing less to achieve more. It's certainly not about becoming more disciplined or waking up at 4 a.m. to squeeze in more into your day. The willpower muscle is a muscle, just like your bicep, okay? And it gets depleted throughout the day. Willpower simply doesn't work long term. And it's certainly not about techniques like Pomodoro, timers, time boxing, planner journals, and all of that stuff, okay? These tools simply do not survive the real world test. They don't survive in the real world where someone can send you a message about your shopping cart exploding or about your hosting account being hacked. Like, it just doesn't survive that, okay? So the first question is, how do we find what is the trivial 80% in our business and what is the vital 20% that we need to be focusing on? Well, most people attempt to apply the 80-20 principle to their businesses backwards. They sit in front of a really long to-do list and try to guesstimate which of the 20% of tasks are going to move the needle. That's like best case scenario, by the way, because most people sit in front of a really long to-do list and just start, working on whatever is at the top of the list. They don't even ask the question, what's the most important thing to work on? They just, get overwhelmed and try to push it. But it's impossible to predict which one of your tasks will produce the most impact, right? Because you don't know until you try, don't know until you execute. So oftentimes you might be facing a choice between 3 different activities that all seem on surface like they can, bring you a great result. So the right approach is to look on your past results rather than try to predict your future results. You'll find that 20% of your past actions have yielded a disproportionate amount of your success and income. And the clues to your future wins are actually hidden in your past successes. So the first action item, now we will not do it together now, you should do it after we're done here, is the first action item is to make a big list of things you've done for your business in the past few months, maybe 6 months, okay? And that list will probably look something like this. There's going to be things you've done for marketing and sales. There's going to be things you've done for product and service delivery. There's going to be things you've done for personal professional development. There's going to be things you've done for your operations. Okay. Now, once you have that list, there are 4 questions that can guide you on finding the right activities, the vital 20%. First one being, which of these activities resulted in bringing in your best 3 to 5 clients in the last 6 months? Second question, which of these activities resulted in bringing in 80% of your sales in the last 6 months? Which of these activities are you really good at and actually enjoy doing? And which of all the products and services you offer are responsible for bringing in 80% of your revenue? Now, these are very important questions. And once we have the big to-do list like this, and we apply these questions right here to that to-do list, we can then identify the few things out of this entire list of things we've done that what we would call high impact activities. And we can mark them on this list, and voila, these are the things that you should now be doing more of, okay? And everything else you should be doing less of or get rid of altogether. Does that make sense, guys? Give me a 7 in the chat if this is making sense while I drink some water. All right, getting some 7s, so you're getting the transmission. Perfect. Now, once you identify these high impact activities, we will mark them on the list and we're going to save that list. Now, the next step is Once these activities are now identified, we now know what are the 20% we should focus more on and the 80% that we should focus less on. The question then becomes, how do you get rid of the 80% of tasks that suck a lot of your time and energy but aren't producing actual results? Because that's key, right? Well, first, I want to pose this question, and I want your honest answer in the chat. Once we've identified the 20% that we know we should work more on, can we just drop the 80% altogether? Can we just go back to that big list and just stop doing, 80% of that list? Just completely stop it. Yes, no question. Just give me a yes, no in the chat. Can we just stop doing the 80%? All right, you guys are a bunch of smart cookies because no, we cannot. We cannot just stop doing that, right? If there's an accounting issue, it has to be addressed. If there's a technical issue, it has to be addressed. If there's a customer complaint, it has to be addressed, right? So no, many of these, what we would call trivial tasks, still have to get done so your business keeps running, okay? So for that, I created the 3 buckets method. And here's how it works. There are 3 buckets. There's the drop bucket. These are the activities that feel productive but create no results whatsoever. They are often done out of habit, procrastination, or a false sense of obligation. So you can stop doing these today and your business will not suffer. Examples: redesign company logo, clear email inbox, chat with so-and-so on Messenger or WhatsApp or whatever. Browsing social media for so-called market research, which is basically procrastination in disguise. So that's the drop bucket. That's the first bucket. The second bucket is called the delegate bucket. These are the tasks that are necessary for the business to function, but do not require your unique genius as the owner. These could be things like processing invoices, booking travel for a business trip, issuing a refund to an existing customer, answering a customer service email, onboarding a new customer, offboarding a customer, posting something on social media, or dealing with a technical issue like an image not loading on your website, right? Make sense? That's something you should delegate. And the third bucket is what I call the system redesign bucket. I'm sorry, I really couldn't figure out a better name for this. My apologies. These are the tasks that eat up a lot of your time on daily or weekly basis due to a system inefficiency, okay? These tasks usually are directly tied to bringing in customers and revenue. Doing these isn't productive, but delegating them isn't easy either. The solution, okay, is to redesign the system or the process itself to make it easier to delegate and free yourself up from this burden without hurting your impact. Now, this is a little bit more complex, so I'm going to give you an example. Here's a scenario. You spend 1 hour every day answering the same 5 to 10 questions from potential and existing customers. Anyone ever had that experience where you're answering the same darn question for 150th time? It's like, if I, press this button, will this destroy, my neighborhood? No, it won't. It's safe. So the wrong solution that is usually applied by most business owners is to delegate this to a $7 an hour assistant. Now, what happens here is that you're just paying someone else to manage an inefficient process. Okay, and that's very frustrating. Here's the correct solution. You've got to create an incredibly clear, impossible to miss, frequently asked questions on your website or a downloadable PDF that is sent to every potential customer or existing customer that covers all the possible questions they can ask, which you can usually get an idea of if you've been in business for more than 6 months. The result? The number of repetitive emails drops by 90%. No extra cost or management headaches for you. You not only save money, you not only save time, but you also get peace of mind. Okay? Now, here's another scenario for the same sort of problem, for a different problem, but same approach to fixing it. You spend hours each week on discovery calls and strategy sessions only to disqualify 8 out of 10 potential clients you're talking to. Now, this is very common for people who run agencies, for example, right? So if you're a freelancer, if you're providing some sort of service and you need to get on the phone with people to close that sale, this is probably happening to you more often than you wish. Now, the wrong solution that, again, that is usually applied by most business owners and freelancers is to try to get better at selling. Okay, so in this case, I think it's the wrong solution because you can be the world best salesperson, like world class, but you really can't sell a John Deere tractor to a city slicker. As simple as that. If I don't have a field to farm, you can't sell me a tractor, right? So this is not a I'm not good enough at sales problem. This is actually a different kind of problem. This is a qualification problem. So the correct solution is create a filter system before they book a call with you by making them fill out a form with qualifying questions and a scoring system. If they score less than 7 out of 10 on the score sheet, they don't get a call with you. Now, instead, they could get a link to a website with, more information. They could get a "I'm sorry, I can't help you" message, or you can refer them to a friend of yours with whom you can have an affiliate relationship and say, "Hey, I cannot help you, but if you really need help in this department, I recommend this person. Go talk to them. Tell him Steve sent you," and that's it. The result, tire kickers and unqualified leads do not waste your time, leaving more time to work with clients and or generate better leads. Now, am I making sense so far? Again, just checking in with you. Give me a 9 in the chat if this is making sense. I'm going to drink some water. Okay. All right. Looks good. Awesome. Now, here's the third question. Finally, there's just one more, okay? And it is this: how to avoid being sucked back into the daily madness. Knowing that we now know what we need to do, what we need to delegate, and how to design better systems, the question then becomes, will this stand the test of our messy lives? Because it might work well for a week, but then life happens. An urgent email, a nasty customer review, a broken shopping cart. Things happen. There's always, one or two black swans, and you're right back on the hamster wheel, right? So you're always wrestling that ball, trying to take control of your day. So what's the right solution here? What is going to stand the test of the real world, right? And not like a vacuum or seminar room. Well, the solution isn't more willpower or better discipline. Here's why. You see, you're operating in an environment designed to keep you distracted. Your email notifications, your social media, your open door policy, these are just some of the things that make it next to impossible not to lose your mind. It's kind of like saying, okay, I'm diabetic, but I'm going to work in a bakery, or I'm going to be making cakes for a living. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not allowed near sugar, you should not, be working in Dunkin' Donuts, or you shouldn't be visiting Dunkin' Donuts every day. Trying to be more disciplined to fight all these distractions is basically like trying to put out a massive fire with a tin bucket. You will always burn, always, without exception. To become a true 80-20 entrepreneur, you don't need a Marine's discipline and willpower. You need a better system designed to protect you from distractions. Okay, let me give you an example from my own life. This is a true story. At one point, a storm of notifications grew around me. Maybe you've been there yourself. JV partners messaging me on Facebook Messenger, friends hit me up on Instagram, customers emailing me, my team demanding attention on Slack, yada, yada, yada. It was too much. And instead of getting anything done, I was basically just replying to messages all day long. Now, the solution that I tried, that I thought was the right solution, that didn't work, was when I tried to set office hours where I would only check the notifications at designated times. I read about this in the 4-Hour Work Week and in the book called Deep Work by Cal Newport. Now, that didn't actually work for me because I kept getting pinged by these notifications, and I would always break my own rules and go to check them. If it dings or bings, or there's like something pops on my screen, I'm sorry, yes, I'm that easy, and I will go check that. And I would always break my own rules, and I would basically get sucked into the conversations. Well, obviously, the fact that I'm a control freak didn't help, because if I thought something's wrong, I immediately try to go and fix it. So that was a big problem. Now, the solution that worked like gangbusters is this. I streamlined all instant messengers to just one platform. I went from checking Facebook, Slack, Skype, Instagram, everything, and maybe half a dozen of them, to only dealing with one platform. I published a notice on all of my profiles that the only way to get in touch with me is to go through that one platform. This allowed me to have all the conversations in one place and under control. That's one. Two, I logged out of my work email inbox and asked my team to change the password so I can check it myself. I then created a new personal email and shared it with all of my friends, family, and close associates who needed to know it. And now my inbox is a place of peace and serenity rather than a chaotic workplace. Any important email I need to know about gets sent to me in the form of a screenshot by my team. How about that? That actually worked, believe it or not. And the key is that I did not have to rely on my willpower for this solution to work. Okay, so congrats, you made it so far. Here's what we've covered. We've covered what is the 80-20 principle and how it can help you get more by doing less. We exposed the big hustle lie that you've been sold that had you convinced you needed to do more to get more. I showed you how I created a 307% increase in my income while experiencing 85% reduction in hours that I worked. Now I create more impact with 1 hour of effort as I used to in 3.5 work weeks. We covered specific strategies to apply the 80-20 principle to your work, to optimize it and claim back your freedom. We learned to identify the vital 20% that bring 80% of your results. We learned how to remove the trivial 80% from your schedule so you can focus on what matters. And we learned how to avoid getting sucked into the chaotic day-to-day distraction tsunami. And the good news that this is just scratching the surface. In fact, I developed an entire 80-20 productivity system that any entrepreneur can use to 10x their income while avoiding stress and burnout, and with enough time left over for family, health, travel, and hobbies. And with your permission, I would like to tell you about my system and make you a no-brainer offer to join me in living the 80-20 way. Would you be okay with that? Give me a 1 in the chat if you're okay, or 0 in the chat if you won't be okay with that. Awesome, seeing lots of ones. Thank you. I really appreciate your time and attention today, and I promise it's going to be worth it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to the 80-20 productivity system. The system to explode your income, fulfillment, and happiness with 1/10 of the effort you're putting in right now. This system enables you to achieve your dream income, get everything done, and still be present at the dinner table with your family. Plus, have the time and energy left over to pursue hobbies, travel, have a social life, and take care of your health. It is different from every other productivity approach you've heard about, because while other approaches require you to be more disciplined, more structured, or work longer hours to get more done, the 80-20 productivity system forces you to work less to get more. It strips down the noise and then removes all the mental fog and helps you zero in on the areas that produce results. You see, the 80-20 principle goes deep, deeper than most people realize. When it comes to your income and your personal productivity, right? It touches both the obvious and not so obvious areas of your day-to-day experience as an entrepreneur. Today, I already shared with you the guiding principle of this system, the 80-20 rule, and the system designed to eliminate inefficiencies. But if you're willing to go even deeper into the rabbit hole, I'd like to share with you 11 additional advanced frameworks to skyrocket and amplify everything you do, starting with the Big Rock framework. The only way that I've found to escape the tyranny of the urgent, a never-ending barrage of emails, notifications, urgent requests, and to-do lists. It helps to finally escape the cycle of having to constantly live in a reactive mode, reacting to a million things and a million people that are all happening around you and being in control of your own life. Next, the Eisenhower framework. Finally escape the dreaded to-do list that never ends. This framework helps you transform your work days and go from working on a dozen different things at once that don't produce small results, that actually, no, they don't produce big results, that's a typo, to working on just one thing that 10x's the results. The Top Gun framework. My years of research into personal productivity identified one key trait that all Top Guns share in common. This is the ultimate tell of achievement. This is a trait that top achievers cultivate continuously. Conversely, the people who continuously struggle to break through their income ceilings are usually stuck because of not cultivating this one trait. Top Gun framework explains what this trait is and how to cultivate it in as little as 5 minutes a day, even if you're an old dog that can't learn new tricks. Next, one of my favorites, the CON-CRE framework. All activities you're currently doing to run your business, to operate your life, to grow your income can be broken down into one of two categories, the CON category and the CRE category. And the more time you spend in the CON category, the less effective you are. Entrepreneurs who spend more than 50% of their time in the CON category can't break through the six-figure mark, no matter how much they work. They could be working around the clock, they could be chained to their desk, they could be, handcuffed to their laptop. It doesn't matter. They won't break through. They're simply working on the wrong things, okay? Entrepreneurs who spend more than 50% in the CRE category usually go on to build seven-figure businesses. So this one's really important. The distraction destruction framework. It shows how to effectively eliminate the 6 most common distraction types at the source. It's perfect for entrepreneurs who just lack the willpower to fight distractions, which is what I discovered about myself when I started going deeper into the productivity stuff. Next, the leadership framework. This framework is essential to successfully implementing 80-20 in your business, because no matter how efficient you are, and you can be priding yourself on your efficiency and your work ethic, you can't do everything alone. That's the truth. No matter how amazing you are and hardworking you are, you just can't. There will always be things you must delegate, but it's important to delegate the right things and to do it correctly. This framework walks you through on how to do that. ROI multiplier framework. One of the several advanced frameworks required to create exponential results in your business while working less through the smart use of assets that are already available to you as an entrepreneur, such as labor, technology, capital, relationships, and more. The alchemy framework, an incredibly simple yet incredibly powerful framework, shows how to do the work once and continue getting paid for it over and over again. This isn't about creating a recurring product for your product line. It's about turning almost anything you do into an asset that continues to pay you over and over and over again and leads sales, revenue, and marketplace equity. In fact, there's one thing I've done about 4 years ago that has now produced me over $5 million since. And I've only worked on that thing once, and then I just had it continue producing. It's amazing. Guys, when you discover the 80-20 and how it actually works in your business and life, you can create incredible results. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. You have to see it for yourself. Next, the momentum compounding framework. The secret behind almost every overnight success story you've ever heard of. This framework makes launching anything 10 times easier and more profitable, from products to projects to joint ventures. 10, the network effect framework. This one is actually super easy, super important, but no one talks about it. Networks are the 80-20 on steroids, which means they can create 90-10 outcomes. Throughout history, entrepreneurs who rode the tailwinds of networks or built them got rich extremely fast and got wealthy to a point of just sheer, you couldn't believe it. Okay, this framework helps figure out how to leverage the network effect in your business to create 90-10 outcomes and even 99-1 outcomes. Okay, we're talking things, just examples of networks: the railroad network, the internet, social media, all these things, when they launched, created a bunch of millionaires, right? And then gazillionaires. Well, There's more to it. These are the obvious networks that you can probably see out there in the world, but there's actually way more to that. And in my business, I've used at least 5 different networks that allowed me to multiply it over and over and over again with very little effort. And 11, the joint venture framework. Joint ventures are the perfect example of 80-20. You can leverage joint ventures to get instant access to audiences, credibility, expertise, and resources that would take years to develop on your own. Okay? So to recap, these are the frameworks: the Big Rock framework, Eisenhower framework, Top Gun framework, Concrete framework, Distraction Destruction framework, leadership, ROI multiplier, alchemy, momentum compounding, network effect, and joint venture framework. Here's my big promise to you, that combined, all these frameworks will make you unstoppable. You'll be able to create 10x of the results you're creating right now, or at the very least 10x what you used to be able to do, with half the effort that you're putting into your business at this time. And I promise you this, you will be able to reclaim 20 hours every week while 5xing to 10x in your income and your impact. You will have way less overwhelm, way less burnout. You'll be able to enjoy pure leveraged productivity that helps you achieve your goals while giving you your life back. That's my promise. Very simple. I know it's bold and audacious, but I know what this can do for anyone who applies it. Now, this brings us to this question. What's it worth to reclaim 20 hours every single week? If you're currently working 60 hours a week, reclaiming just 20 hours a week, that's 1,040 hours per year. That's about 6 full months that you're going to be getting back. And you can use this time to do fun things that make your heart sing. Because I'll show you how to use the remaining hours to 10x your productivity and your income. Now, what would you do with an extra 6 months of free time every year? Spend it with the kids, build a second business, travel the world, finally write that book, go sailing, fishing, play golf. It's up to you. Now, what if, on top of reclaiming all that time, you also 5x to 10x your income and your impact? How much would that be worth? Now, let's be conservative and value your time at just $50 an hour. Now, if you're building a business, you're probably worth more than that, but just $50 an hour to be safe. 1,040 hours times $50 is $52,000 in reclaimed time value. But here's where it gets interesting. Those aren't just free hours to watch Netflix. Those are hours you can reinvest into high leverage activities that multiply your income. Now, let's say you're currently making $50,000 a year. A 5x increase puts you at $250,000. A 10x increase puts you at $500,000. That's a $200,000 to $450,000 income increase. Okay, so what is this system really worth? Conservatively, $52,000 in time savings plus $200,000 in income growth. That's $252,000. But I'm not going to charge you 252K, of course not. And I'm not even going to charge you 10K, not even half that at 5K, not even the $1,785 retail value of everything you're getting today. Okay, actually, the price you're paying today, I'm going to give you a really good deal, is $297. That's it, one time. And you can go to igor.top/more with less to go and claim that deal. I promise you, first off, you won't find this taught anywhere else. And second, you will not find a better deal than this. Period. Period. I'm on record saying that, by the way. You can go to igor.top/more with less to go grab that system right now. $297 invested in this masterclass could give you back 1,040 hours per year and help you 5x to 10x your income. That's 2,597 to 1 return on investment based on time value alone. And if you 5x your income, that's at 2,577 to 1 ROI. Show me another investment that delivers those kinds of returns. You simply won't find one. You won't find one. Which is why I'm going to make you a bold guarantee. Implement my system, at least some of the frameworks in the system. And if you don't reclaim at least 10 hours per week, or if you're unsatisfied for any reason, simply request a refund within 60 days. You'll receive a full refund, no questions asked, and you can keep all the bonuses that I'll talk about in a moment, regardless of this decision. Now, why this guarantee? For 3 reasons. First, when you implement my system, or at least 30% of my system, you'll get immediate results, period. It's guaranteed to work. It's as guaranteed as gravity. This law is universal. I don't care who you are, what your business is. You apply it, you will see results. Second, while I realize that some people might take advantage of my generosity, which I don't mind, because my refund rate is just really small. My students are intelligent, they understand the value of what they're getting, and they happen to be getting great results. So the refund rate is almost non-existent. Third, I want you focused on implementation and not buyer's remorse. A strong guarantee like this removes the hesitation and just gives you the freedom to fully commit to the process. Okay, and if you fully commit to this process, you will get the result, which is far greater than the cost of this system. The math is really simple. If this works, which I know it will, you gain 1,040 hours per year. That's 6 months, and potentially 5x to 10x your income. If it doesn't work, which is unlikely, you get your $297 back and all the bonuses. Either way, you win, and the only losing move is inaction. Now, this is the cool part. Besides giving you a really cool deal, I'm also going to throw in 5 amazing bonuses for the first 20 action takers on this webinar. Okay, these are amazing. You're going to love them. Bonus number 1, the $20 million software and automation Rolodex. Access the battle-tested tech stack of highly productive entrepreneurs. So basically, stop bleeding dozens of hours in research looking for the right software for you out of thousands of options, right? And hundreds more being released daily. Because you know the feeling, you're drowning in tabs, your comparison articles you're reading, review sites, YouTube tutorials, everyone's screaming at you that this tool is the best. All this leaves you paralyzed. Every day you waste researching is another day you're not making money, and another day you fall further behind. This bonus is your escape from this hell. This is the exact tech stack that runs my entire empire. Well, empire is a big word. My entire company and some parts of my personal life. These are the actual tools me and my team use daily to run our operation. Just plug in the proven tools and get back to making money, to living your life, etc. This is a $197 value. I'm going to throw that in for free. Next, bonus number 2, the perfect morning routine protocol. So I want you to enjoy the perfect morning, be productive, and not have to wake up at 4 a.m. Because here's what's really happening right now. Every day you're giving your best hours to everyone else. You're drowning in email, you're scrolling social media, reacting to other people's emergencies. But picture this, you wake up tomorrow morning with laser focus, crystal clarity, unstoppable momentum. You're crushing your most important work, the work that actually builds wealth and has an impact on your clients' lives, the work that actually changes your life and their lives. You're flowing and it feels effortless. That's the power of having your perfect morning routine dialed in. You've heard the gurus talk about it too, I'm sure, but you could never find one routine that works for you. Well, this protocol changes everything once and for all. No more 4 a.m. wake-up calls, no more forcing yourself to follow some guru's cookie-cutter routine that makes you miserable. This is about designing your own perfect morning so you can be the one to dominate the day. This bonus is $297 value, and I'm going to throw it in for free to the first 20 people to take action on this special offer. Bonus number 3, the Impact Booster one sheet. Your to-do list is lying to you. It's telling you you're making progress, when really you're just drowning in endless ocean of tasks that never stop growing. Because here's what nobody tells you about to-do lists. They don't prioritize, they just pile up. They overwhelm you. Every task looks equally important on a to-do list. Every item screams for your attention, no matter how big or small it is. Every checkbox begs to be checked. This one-page tool destroys that nightmare forever. It's brutally simple. It takes 3 minutes each morning, and it does what your to-do list never does. It tells you the truth on what actually matters. So no more drowning in an endless list of tasks, no more confusion about what to work on first. This tool cuts through the noise and shows you with crystal clarity the one thing that deserves your time today. Not 47 things, not 15 things, not 5 things. The one thing that actually is going to move the needle for you. The one thing that's going to move you forward and move your company forward and grow your business. Okay? The one thing that matters. That's what this tool gives you. And once you experience that feeling, that deep satisfaction of knowing that you worked today on something that truly mattered and you made progress finally in months, you'll never go back to the chaos of a to-do list. You'll throw all your to-do lists and planners into the trash where they belong, and you'll use this tool every morning. This is a $197 value. I'm going to throw that in for free, but only to the first 20 people to take action. Like I said, fast action takers. Bonus number 4, the not to-do list. Every time you say yes to something you shouldn't be doing, that isn't the best use of your time, you're saying no to your dreams. Truth about achieving peak productivity is that there are some things you simply should not be doing or engaging with at all. And inside the not to-do list, you'll discover the 74 things I no longer do, will never do, and will refuse to do if anyone asks or puts a gun to my head. These activities are traps, and when you get caught in them, they kill your productivity and they make you miserable. You must avoid them at all costs. This is a $97 value, and I'm going to throw it in for free to the first 20 people to take action on this amazing offer that's already pretty amazing for free, okay? And finally, the 5th bonus, the Master Delegator Quick Start Guide. The exact hiring process that finds A players and not the flakes and time wasters, exactly where to find top tier talent that won't flake, won't ghost, and won't make you regret hiring them. The 3-document system that lets you delegate without losing control. And actually, you'll just know exactly what your team is doing. You'll have checkpoints, you'll have accountability. I'll give you the plug and play SOP templates that make training effortless. You won't have to micromanage anyone, but you also will not have to fly blind, praying they don't screw everything up, okay? The weekly check-in protocols that keep your team accountable in 30 minutes per week, so it doesn't take forever, doesn't take a lot of time, and doesn't become a burden. As well as real examples and scripts from a $20 million business. When I say 20 million, I mean a business that has made over $20 million collectively, not one that makes 20 mil a year. Okay, so this is $197 value, and it's yours free as one of the 5 bonuses I'm throwing in for the first 20 people to take action on this amazing offer. Now, you need to go to igor.top/more-with-less to take advantage of this offer. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put up a timer on screen so we can do some Q&A if you have any questions about the system or about the 80-20 approach or anything else about how I run my business. You can ask me anything at all. And then I'm going to, once the timer runs down to 0, I'm going to wrap this up. So let me see how to bring this timer up. In the meantime, you can post your questions in the chat. Let me set this up for, let's say, 20 minutes. And I'm gonna make sure it has no music on it. There we go. Alrighty then. So I see several people asking questions about the replay, right? So good question. So yeah, I'm pretty sure we're going to send out the replay for this training because it's been jam-packed with a lot of useful advice, and I'm assuming many of you would want to go over it again, especially the questions you need to ask about the different activities in your business, right, that brought you results, as well as some other stuff. Plus, I'm pretty sure I'm that obnoxious to believe that you also like the sound of my voice and you want to fall asleep to the sound of my voice. So obviously I'm going to send you the replay. So yeah, we're gonna send out the replay as soon as we can, as soon as it processes, so you can check it out. Cool. Let's see if we have any questions. Wow, there's a lot of activity in the chat. Okay. All right. So a question from John. Can the 80-20 rule be applied if I'm running an agency? Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, the 80-20 rule applies to every type of business out there. Literally no business is exempt from being optimized using the 80-20 rule because it's a universal law that shows up in everything. So whether you're running an agency, whether you are a content creator, whether you're a freelancer, whether you are a service provider of some kind, it doesn't matter, you will benefit. I'll give you an example. So if you're running an agency, chances are you have several parts to your business. One part of your business is generating customers, generating clients, in order to make sales, right? And you probably have maybe a couple of different services, I'm assuming, under your umbrella in your business. Let me know if I'm correct to assume that. And so if that's the case, if you do have several different services in your agency that you provide, here's what I can tell you for sure. If you go back and you look at your numbers for the past few months or for the past year, I am pretty sure you'll find that there's only one product or service that you're selling that has brought in about 80% or at least 50% of your revenue. And so that will give you a clue about what is your most popular offer and most popular product, and thus will allow you to focus more on selling and marketing that particular product or service. Because oftentimes, as business owners, we find ourselves putting in a lot of work to launch something that simply doesn't yield the sort of outcome we wanted. I remember launching a program. I was really excited to launch it because it was a personal interest of mine. I just got into public speaking at the time, and I met this guy who trained me on my voice. Believe it or not, my voice used to be very squeaky and airy and kind of nasally. So it was difficult to, do public speaking and have people take me seriously. So after going through this, I was like, this is incredible. I have to tell people about this. And we made a collaboration to launch this offer. And as a result, I put in about 6 months into developing a bunch of assets, into doing training, into creating marketing materials, running ads. And after 6 months or so, I looked back at my numbers and discovered that this program was less than 10% of all of my annual revenue. And it generated less than 5% of all of my customers. And that the vast majority of my customers were spending 80% of the money, basically 80% of the revenue of my company was going towards 2 products. Guess what I did? In spite of it kind of hurting, my ego was certainly hurt. I basically scraped the project and focused on the 2 products that were producing more revenue. As a result, the next year we've added over $1 million to the turnover because we simply expanded the marketing efforts on those 2 offers. Now, did I work longer hours in that time? No. I just worked on a different offer. That's it. Now, another thing that we've done is we've analyzed who are the top spending customers. There was a couple of years ago we did that, and we said, okay, so looks like these about 12 or 10% of customers were spending about 90% of the money the company was making, right? So while there were lots of customers, these particular customers were just willing to spend more money. So guess what? I went and I made them another offer and I said, hey, I noticed you like my stuff. So here's a bundle of everything I've ever created for a one-time fee. Would you like this? Obviously, they all said yes, and I made close to 50 grand in like less than a couple of days like that. Again, very little effort. I didn't have to do any deliverables because the products were already created, and I just went to existing customers who I knew were my 80-20 group, the less than 20% of people who were bringing in more than 90% of revenue, and made them an offer. So again, if you're getting the idea by now, I'm the kind of guy who likes to have big results with relatively low effort. I used to be, because I was in the Air Force, and in the Air Force they teach you to just work really hard, and that's fine. At some point in life you do have to work hard, but then as you get older you realize you don't always have to work hard, and working hard in itself is not really a virtue. Although some people make it and they wear it as a badge, I don't think that's a virtue. I used to think it is. I used to kind of be super proud of myself for outworking people. But now having two kids and a family and hobbies and wanting to have a life and traveling, 6 to 12 times a year, I realized that you can be working around the clock. And the realization that you can be working around the clock came to me one time when I found myself with my laptop working on my business while being in a hospital hallway, waiting on my mom, checking on her mother, my grandmother, right, who was just on her way out, so to speak. So instead of being there with my mom in the room, I was outside on the bench, sitting next to people who were waiting to get into the ER, basically, working. It wasn't an urgent thing. I'm sure it seemed like an urgent thing for me at the time, but the reality is that I should have been there supporting my mom through letting go of her mother, right? But I was working. And that wasn't the only time. That wasn't the only time. The other time, I remember working for a really long 14-hour straight on something. Maybe it was a product launch or whatever. And then, I called my wife and no one's answering. So I checked and there was no one at home. I didn't even notice that she walked away. She walked out. She took her daughter and disappeared. I started calling her, no answer. I don't know who's picking up. I called her best friend. I called her mom. Eventually, I discovered that she did go to her mother, and she was very upset with me because I wasn't paying attention to her, and we had to have a difficult conversation. I mean, because at the end of the day, if you ask any business owner why are they doing this, they'll say to you something like, "I'm doing it for my family." But oftentimes, there's a direct conflict between us doing it for our families and at the same time sacrificing our families for the sake of building this business for our families. So it's a really um, silly situation where we're doing this for them, but we're sacrificing them so we can do this. It's really, really tragic. Um, so question from Don. My business requires me to be there personally to continue running smoothly. What if this doesn't work for my special case? Well done. So I'm sure your business is special, and that if you need to be there for it to run smoothly, well, I would guess, and there's like a little chance that I'm wrong. There's probably 9 out of 10 odds that that I'm right. It's probably because your processes are so awkward that if you're not there, it won't run without you. So it would require you to redesign the process, just like the examples I shared in the training. Of course, that would require you to admit that the processes are not perfect and to let go. So, whenever I meet business owners who are like that, usually it means they're control freaks. I'm a control freak, so I can tell a control freak even by a question they ask. And so they need to feel in control to feel good. But eventually, when you're ready to let go, you will simply redesign the process in a way that anyone can be in that process. You see, there's simply no way of scaling your business and getting your life back until you learn to create a process. A great example of this is McDonald's, right? They were coming up during the time when the country was full of diners that could serve a burger, but they came up not so much with a different burger, right? Everyone would be like, "Oh, my burger's different. It's made from a different beef. We're using different sauce." But what they focused on is they redesigned the process of the taking the order and the preparation, the delivery of the burger. And as a result, they revolutionized not only their own industry, but pretty much the whole planet, building one of the most valuable businesses in the world. So it does come down to your process and redesigning the process, Don. Again, I'm really sorry for calling you a control freak, but I'm pretty sure you are, because I was exactly the same. My business ran on all of these awkward processes, and I was always there to answer people's questions, and I was there trying to control it. And my biggest frustration, that's how you know your process needs work. My biggest frustration would be that whenever I would bring someone in to delegate things to, I would always get frustrated and fire them because they would be making too many mistakes. But the reason they were making too many mistakes, and I would always be like, you know what? Instead of showing it to you, I'd just do it myself because it's going to take forever to show it to you. The reason that was happening is because my processes were terrible. They were absolutely not streamlined. They were not built for scaling. And that's a big problem. And it's the 80-20 realization and understanding of the 80-20 rule that helped me streamline my processes. Question from James. I'm already pretty busy as it is. What if I have no more than an hour a day? Well, James, I'm not sure if I was able to convey the big idea of this training, but this is designed for you to free up your time. Now, if you're worried about the system itself, the system is going to take you a couple of hours to go through. You can go through it in a weekend. You can go through it in an evening. You can go through it while having your favorite sitcom on TV or whatever, and just kind of listening to it with one ear and watching TV with the other. The system is very simple. You will go through it very fast. Implementing the system is also very, very easy. In fact, if all you do is implement and use the bonuses I gave you, that alone will free up an incredible, enormous amount of free time in your day-to-day, giving you more freedom and more mental space for you to do the things you want to do or to grow your business. So whether you have an hour a day, 10 minutes a day, or basically, better yet, if you're just stretched beyond your capacity, you need this. You need this. If you want your life back and not have to sacrifice making money, not have to sacrifice your ambitions, you need this. Next question. Question from Dave. What if I don't know where my 20% actually is? Well, that's a good question. So first and foremost, on this webinar earlier, I shared with you how to find out what your 20% are. The strategy is very simple. Most business owners, they try to predict or guess what this is. The reality is you can't guess. You can only judge based on your results. So you need to look backwards on the things you've been doing for your business in the last 6 months and identify the things that have been working and bringing in the 80% of your results. Usually it will revolve around asking questions about revenue, like where did 80% of your revenue come from? Who are your best customers? Where are your best customers coming from, etc. I'll give you a great example. I was just reviewing this the other day. We have lots of products in our business, probably over 20 different products. And I was reviewing the numbers with my numbers person, Margarita, and I said, what can you tell me about the last 20 people who bought our $6,000 service? And she told me that, they were originating from these different sources, these different funnels that we have. And across the different funnels they came through, I couldn't find like any commonality because they came through different funnels. But what I did see is that within the first 7 days or so of these people interacting with our products and services, they have purchased a book, a $10 book. This was the tell. This was the 80-20 right there. So turned out that the biggest indicator whether or not somebody would go on to buy our $6,000 service was the act of purchase of a $10 book. This was more important than having them buy a $500 course, a $1,000 coaching program. This was the ultimate thing because all the people who ended up buying the $6,000 service bought the physical book, no matter where they came from, no matter if they came from a paid ad campaign, no matter if they came from organic content, no matter if they came from a joint venture partner. This was the one thing, right? So what we did is we started, pushing the book everywhere. And as a result, I expect for our backend sales to go up. And this is a great example, a classic example of the 80-20 in action, because if I did not discover this, if I ignored this fact, and I would continue trying to push the service to different customer segments or try to develop new ads for like a $200 course instead of the book, right? I would have never gotten the same impact, and I would have probably worked much harder on my business. In other words, it would be a game of diminishing returns where I would be putting more effort but getting less for that effort. Am I making sense, guys? Give me a 1 in the chat if this is making sense, if this is useful to you. Okay, awesome. Question from Tom. Will the program teach me how to decide what to stop doing when everything feels important and urgent? Yeah. In fact, there's one protocol, one framework that I teach that helps you do that. It helps you identify in a really, really long to-do list where everything seems important, everything seems urgent, on what you should be working on today. It basically allows you to clearly tell the outcomes of each action you're going to be taking, or at least estimate what the outcomes is going to be, and just very clearly and very quickly say, okay, this is what I need to be doing. Now, the other thing actually in the program that you'll find out is that the decision muscle, the same decision muscle we use to decide, which thing on the to-do list we need to be doing, as well as which customer to talk to, how to sell, how to overcome an objection. That same decision muscle is actually the same muscle we use in order to decide what we're having for dinner, what we're gonna wear today, which grocery store we're gonna go to do the grocery shopping today, and so on and so forth, right? So the same muscle is being spent on decisions that don't have as much impact on your life. So besides allowing you to clearly and quickly tell what's important, what's urgent, what you should be doing today to move the needle in your business, so you can move that needle with less effort and waste less time, I will also show you how to preserve your decision-making muscle. So by the time you're like, you're midday and you're being hit with a very heavy decision, you still have the mental capacity to make those decisions easily. Let me remove this time. Okay. All right. I got one more question, which I'll answer, and we'll be wrapping this up. Question from Michael. Can the system help if my problem isn't not enough time, but rather feeling confused about what to do next? Yes. Yes, it certainly can. This system, I call it the productivity system, right? I call it the 80-20 productivity system, but the truth of the matter is productivity is really not about the time. We all have the same amount of hours in the day. You know, Mark Cuban, the billionaire, has the same amount of hours in the day as do you, but he has a much bigger impact. And so the difference is not the amount of hours, but rather what we do with those hours and the decisions we make about the actions we're taking. So yes, while this is the 80-20 productivity system, what this truly is the 80-20 decision-making system. Because by making better decisions about what you choose to do with your time, you will reclaim a huge chunk of your time back and you will multiply your results. So this is, again, this is not the kind of system that tells you to wake up at 4 a.m., take a cold shower, and save time by listening to a personal development tape in your car while you're commuting, you know, to the gym. That's not productivity. That's squeezing more effort into the same amount of time. That's a great way to burn out. That's a great way to be miserable. What I'm talking about is being able to build an incredible business while having an incredible life, while having time to enjoy the money you're making, while having the mental capacity to spend time with your family. This is a reality that every business owner dreams about, but almost no business owner lives. In fact, most business owners grow to hate their businesses very quickly. I remember I was talking to this one guy who owns a restaurant a couple of years back, and this was a very successful restaurant. And I said, "Wow, you've built something amazing here." And he kind of put his head down and he says, "You know, a lot of people tell me that, but I freaking hate this place." Right? Because it drained him. It just sucked every ounce of blood out of him. It was just way too stressful. Right? Even though he built something amazing, it cost him dearly. So I don't want that for you. I want you to have something amazing and not to have to sacrifice your health or your family in the process. I want you to achieve your ambitions and also achieve your personal goals and have a great life, have great health, and have the time to enjoy it all. So go to igor.top, more with less, right now, and sign up for the 80-20 productivity system. Reclaim 20 hours of time every week, 10x your income, 10x your impact, and enjoy a great life. Be wealthy, healthy, and wise. This is Igor Kafetz. Thank you so much for being here with me. I really appreciate it. And until next time we chat, have a good one.